Mm. Mhm.
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing, sir?
Good evening.
Great.
Well, greetings, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, and want to thank everybody for coming to the Affordable Housing Implementation Committee. My name is Reginald Johnson. I'm the Director of the Department of Community Development, and serve as a principal staff person, steady staff person, and liaison for the Affordable Housing Implementation Committee. I want to start this meeting off because we have a little bit of a situation in that technically we do not have co-chairs for this meeting because our co-chairs, Diane Katati and Tiffany Elder, term expired at the end between the last meeting. And so the Mayor O'Neill has appointed two nominees for co-chairs, but they will not be approved by City Council until Monday night. And those are Courtney James and Prince Rivers. And so after talking with our legal counsel, what they recommended is that the committee approve the Courtney James and Prince Rivers as co-chairs for this meeting only. And by the time the next meeting comes, they will have been sworn in and approved by the council. And so that's the recommendation that I'll share with you. And so what I suggest is that I think we have a quorum. Now, but that I will just entertain a motion if one of you will make a motion to name Courtney James and Prince Rivers as the co-chairs for this meeting. And take a second, and then we can vote, and then we can proceed with the meeting.
I move that we have Courtney James and Prince Rivers serve as our co-chairs tonight for this meeting.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Ms. Giggs and seconded by Ms. Eford Green that Courtney James and Prince Rivers be named as co-chairs for this meeting. Are there any questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any not voting? Well, the motion carries and, Mr. Rivers, the meeting is yours.
Good evening. Thank you for that technical action. I felt like I was being voted into Union Baptist Church all over again. Sorry about that, Brother Reginald. But we welcome you tonight to the August meeting of the Affordable Housing Implementation Committee. And as it's already been stated, I'm Prince Rivers, one of your co-chairs. The other is Courtney James, and she may be checking in. She's here, but you may see more of her a little bit later. Thank you all for your involvement in this important work that is very important to the city. So at this time, I will ask that roll call be taken so we can determine who is here.
Thank you. Tiffany Elder. John Parker. That's Nicole Diggs.
Here.
Jarvis Martin. Rita McDaniel. Lucia Constantine. Courtney James.
I'm here and we're still driving, so I apologize for having my camera off.
Thank you. Timothy Stelman. Kyle Bosterman. Dennis Sanders.
Here.
Leah Everett Green.
Here.
Prince Rivers. Angela D. Vic Lewis. Laura Beatty. Dr. Monique Halsey Hyman.
Here.
I've completed the roll.
Thank you, Ms. Bobbitt, for the roll call. Each of you should have received a copy of the agenda. I don't know if that's something we screen share, but we do want to review that. First, we will approve the minutes. We will have updates from Housing Authority, a Moss and Ross update, community development updates from Reginald Johnson, and we'll take public comments. Any questions about the agenda? Does that require a motion or we? No.
I will say before we get started, Prince, there is an attendee with their hand raised, but I'm not sure if we want to do that now or just have them enter in the Q&A.
Yeah, that's from Moss and Ross.
Oh yeah, she probably just needs to be let in.
It's above my pay grade, but thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'm sure.
I'll step in, Mr. Chair. Benita, would you let Jenny Pawlowski and Susan Ross make them panelists if they're not? They may be already.
Okay, what is the person's name again? I'm sorry.
Jenny Pawlowski and Susan Ross. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Minutes were distributed for your review. Any questions, additions, changes to the minutes? These are minutes from the May 4th, 2023 meeting. If there are no questions or changes, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes, the record.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Leah. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. With the motion and the second, ready for the question. All those in favor of approval of the minutes as printed, please let it be known by the sign of aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. And now we will have updates from the Durham Housing Authority.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone is surviving the small little heat wave that we have experienced this summer. And Ms. Bobbitt, are you going to be opening the presentation or should share screen here?
I'm going to open it up for you.
Okay, thank you. My presentation this evening should be relatively quick.
I'm sorry. Let me stop sharing right quick.
Okay.
I'm sorry. For some reason, it's not coming up right now. I'm sorry. Can you
Okay.
go ahead, Anthony, and share?
Let me see if I can share. If I can do it. Does everyone see my screen here?
Yes, we can see it. We might
Yes.
need to put it in slideshow mode.
There we go. Is that good for everyone?
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, as I'm indicated, I don't only have a few items I want to update you on this month. We are continuing to make overall progress with our development plans in DDMP. I want to update you regarding the Joyce and JJ Henderson. Mention a few updates regarding the CNI implementation process and update you as where we are with our development partners for the phase 2 of the DDMP. Here, I just want to show you, this is one of my favorite photographs here of the wonderful work here at the JJ Henderson site with the original JJ Henderson there where we did the rehab on the 177 units and then the new construction of the Joyce there to the right, I would guess in the photo there. Of course, we had our ribbon cutting in April, and I'm happy to report that we are inside. We have less than 25 of the 80 units to lease. So that has been going very well for us there. This other photo I wanted to show you is I wanted you to see this wonderful skyline of JJ Henderson at night. This is the photo, of course, you're coming on site. This is the signage here coming to the Joyce and JJ Henderson. But on the right here, this is a magnificent view of the skyline looking back at the JJ Henderson at night. This is the lighting package that we put on the site as part of the beautification of the exterior, and also it's part of the overall beautification on the site that we did. And it looks, I don't know if you have been downtown in the evenings about 7:30, well, I guess about 8 o'clock or so now. that you are able to see this, and it is quite a view looking from downtown back at the site. Just a quick update on where we are with the Choice neighborhood, CNI. As you know, Elizabeth Street, as I mentioned, we closed, and that is this is number 1 here on the chart. That's under construction right now. Phases 2 and 3 here are the first phases of the Choice neighborhood. And this is a Commerce Street. There's a family site, and then there's a seniors building, a combined 172 units. This is what we are preparing for the actual financial closing on, likely to take place the last quarter of this year. That's what we are hoping we can get that in. We have completed the relocation of all of the residents that are impacted in this area, so we can then move forward with demolition and ultimately financial closing and construction on that site. And this is the Dillard, number 4 here is what we call Dillard Street. That is actually part of that Dillard Street is the next phase, will be the next phase after, it will be the second phase of the CNI. We have already submitted our 9% application, tax credit application for that site. As I indicated, Elizabeth Street is under construction. We're doing the horizontal work. If you're driven by the site, you will see a lot of earth moving there. That's what's taking place with at Elizabeth Street right now. And of course, part of that is putting in the new utilities. And I think they have started the they have started the drilling for some of the pilings for the buildings itself. Excuse me. And then we talked about Commerce Street, which is the first phase of the CNI and 172 units. And that is a senior and a family building that will be going up there. Next, here are just some of the photographs of the work that's underway there, the Elizabeth Street. You see the progress is being made with all of the horizontal work and putting in the utilities. And you see some of these dirt piles here is some of the drilling that they would do for the pilings that will actually be part of the supporting structure for the building. It's still scheduled for a December 2024 delivery for that site. Just very quickly where we are on our master development agreement progress that's underway. Fayette Place and Forest Hill Heights. I'm happy to report that we finally can say that we are almost there with Fayette Place. We should be exchanging our last comments with the council that's representing the developer sometime this week. And that way, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we will have all of the components so we can actually execute on that. Forest Hill Heights is pretty much on the same schedule. I'll tell you, this is where all the hard work comes when you're trying to hammer out all of the legal parts of these development agreements and making sure that we are actually achieving what we want to achieve as an organization with respect to the business terms of these agreements. I mean, for the most part, they have progressed as anticipated. We've had some moments where, you know, we had to stop for a moment, both sides breathe and get back in the ring to try to get the matters resolved, but that's all part of negotiations. And certainly the DHA and the County Criminal Justice Center, that site has been put on delay now with respect to that site, and we are focusing on Forest Hill Heights and Fayette Place. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for the Housing Authority? It's good to see the progress we're making.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we will continue with the agenda. It looks like we have an update from Moss and Ross. We'll hear that at this time.
Thank you. Appreciate your giving us access. We were a little worried when all we could do was see you and we knew we were next on the agenda. So thanks for noticing that our hands were up. I'm Susan Ross. I'm Durham born and bred and happy to be working with all of you good people on this important work for our community. Moss and Ross partners with French West Vaughan, a Triangle Communications firm agency. Jenny Paluski is here to represent them, and we're going to tell you some things we've been working on, and then we need your input on where we go next after we finish going over what we've been doing. Our charge from the beginning was to make sure the community knew what was going on, how their bond money was being spent, and to which was a promise made when you asked people to vote for this bond, and that's what we've tried to stay focused on all the way through. And to Jenny, I'll let you introduce a little bit more about what your group's been doing.
Thank you, Susan. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully that worked well and everyone can see it, although let me change the view a little bit. I'm going to go over, and many of you may or may not remember our presence on some past AHIC meetings. So glad to be with you all this evening as well. We're going to update you on a couple of items, both looking at what's been accomplished in the last 6 months and then what's planned for the next, which of course just supports a lot of what you heard Anthony Snell speaking to just a few minutes ago. Is this look okay on your screens?
Okay, it's not in play mode, it's in preview mode. So there you go. Perfect.
Better. Okay. So 2 major items at a very high level have been focused on an awareness campaign, and that's through paid media. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. You may remember from the beginning of the year, so sharing the plans there, and excited to say we've been running now for about 50% of the campaigns. I'm going to walk through what that entails. And then we have been supporting through just general communications through some owned and earned properties, AKA just news stories, and getting some people in the news media to pay attention to the exciting milestones and events that have been taking place. So first, the awareness campaign. Again, this is paid media. I've got a few assets to share with you, which include digital ads, television or video spots, as well as some bus wraps. And you may have been seeing these around the city. Hopefully you have. If not, if you look harder, you might see it in the months to come. We've been running a campaign as of April of this year, and it will continue through October. There are a couple little moments of pause at given moments, but that's just to refresh some of our assets or extend our dollars through as much of the year as possible. Anybody feel free to ask any questions if I start speaking in too much marketing jargon, but I'm going to work to make sure I don't do that. And as we go through, but we are reaching adults 18 plus throughout the city. We are looking at a 60% reach, and just all that means is of the entire audience in the city of Durham that meet those requirements, we look to be hitting about 60% of those citizens at a 3% frequency. So that just means of 60% of that total audience, we're trying to get them to see the ads at least 3 times. And so far we're delivering on that goal. We're reaching, or the impressions figure you see at the top there is in millions. So out of the whole campaign, we look to deliver about 16 million impressions, and that just translates, think about eyeballs, total audience eyeballs that we're going to hit, whether that's on streaming television, the bus wraps, or digital advertisements. This is what the bus more or less looks like. This is a creative mock-up of it, but it should look very similar. And again, I'd love to hear if anybody's seen that. We are on 4 different Go Durham buses on all routes throughout the city, all zip codes as well. And this is going really well. We actually think we're going to deliver over goal once the campaign wraps in October. It does have, and I'll speak to it really quickly, it does have a QR code, so that can be scanned, and it goes to foreverhomedurham.com, where we're doing a lot of storytelling on both progress with groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, also some general storytelling of people who are within the program, whether that's service providers or tenants themselves. And we're able to track that that activity. Here are what the digital ads look like. Also exceeding performance metrics and goals that were set at the onset of the campaign. Also drives to foreverhomedurham.com, where we're tracking progress. I am going to, and everyone, please bear with me. What I really want to do here, and tech either will or won't be on my side, I'm going to stop sharing really quickly, because what I'm going to do right now is talk about, you see OTT, that stands for over the top. What that really means is streaming television. So not just general cable television. We are running a great video that the communications department with the city of Durham helped put together and really produce earlier this year, maybe late spring, to get that into the market. It's been running. We have a really tremendous view rate or completion rate of the video of over, I think, 98% right now, which just means of all the people viewing the spot, 98% of them are watching the video in its entirety, which actually is really tremendous effort and result, and says a lot for the message and the interest that the audience has in viewing that full message. So let me see if I can, I'm aware I stopped sharing my screen because I actually want to switch over to.
I'll talk for a second while you're trying to get that. We knew that the people who start watching something like that are going to be folks who care about housing issues, but we believe that to be a lot of people in our community. And so it is not surprising that those who start watching keep watching it to the end. It's a short one intentionally, but we're still thrilled about it. So, there you go, Jenny. Filled in the time for you.
Thank you so much for that, Susan. It's hard sometimes to navigate tech, talk, think, and then make it there successfully. So thank you. What I'm also going to apologize for, let me know if somebody, actually, Susan, if I could just delegate you, raise your hand at me if this audio does not come through. A lot of times it happens that way on Zoom or Teams, that the audio doesn't come through the way we want to, but I'm going to give it a whirl.
Everyone in Durham should be able to find a home they can afford. That's why Forever Home Durham is creating affordable, livable, and inclusive communities for low to middle income residents. From renting to owning, find out how the city is helping more people find homes right here in Durham. Learn more at foreverhomedurham.com.
All right. So that spot is running now, has been for a couple of months, and will continue to run through October.
Jenny,
And
explain where it runs.
it runs through Hulu. So if you of cable cutters who might be on here, if you subscribe to Hulu and watch television through that vendor, it is running on shows. Let me pull my screen back up. I'll also show you. It's running on shows that are featured on Hulu. It is most viewed right now in a couple of standout zip codes in the area. And it is, one second.
Always a little startling to find out what they know about us, isn't it?
No, it just follows people around based on their interest, their location, which is really, really wonderful for marketers. So it's scary for everyone else, but it's really wonderful. And actually, at the end of the day, we all enjoy, I think, the convenience of finding out what we're most interested in. We all enjoy the benefits of that, even if we don't quite realize it.
May I ask a question?
Please.
So how are you all getting people who don't subscribe to Hulu able to watch it? Have y'all tried like the mini clinics and putting them up there, or like Lincoln Community Health Center, places like that for people who don't subscribe? Because not everybody subscribes to Hulu.
It's a really good. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
I'm
to
just
cut you off.
asking out of curiosity.
Really good question. The short answer is we do a big picture kind of holistic assessment of the market and make sure that we have a variety of channels that we're deploying through. So while we're talking about Hulu with quote unquote television or streaming, streaming networks. Well, while we're reaching people that way with this video, it's why we also have bus wraps. It's why we have digital ads that are going out through a variety of channels. It's why we have yard signs that we've distributed on site at the actual construction building sites. It's why we're doing earned media, which I'll talk a little bit about how we're hitting cable television or certainly other print publications. So we look at, we've got a lot of experts on the paid media side where we're taking dollars and looking to see how we get a variety of means, stretch the dollars as far as we can, and have a very diverse audience as far as we can go. We'd like to do more of that. We actually have a portion of this presentation to, like Susan mentioned, to sort of offer it up to the group to hear of additional, whether that's avenues of reaching different audience members or other, to kind of hear from you all what you'd like to suggest or like to see in the next, in the future as we look to planning. But great question. A lot of it has to do with budget dollars as well, certainly. Okay, any other questions there before I move on? So communications and earned media activities. I think I only have one slide here. It was a nice segue from Mr. Snell to talk about what's upcoming. Just a quick little look, and this is such a high level snapshot, but in the earlier parts of this year through Q2, some of the big milestones were like, we talked about bringing people out to the Joyce grand opening in April. We had a lot of great local media attendance and coverage. Triangle Tribune and Durham Magazine came out on site along with a handful of others and wrote some great stories, interviewed Mr. Scott. We've had Reginald present in some of those as well. And then the Elizabeth Street groundbreaking in May, where we had CBS 17 and ABC 11. We're working really hard. Of course, we see coverage that is not positive a lot of times. So these moments are pretty key at getting media to come pay attention and actually cover the real great progress and work that's happening. And it's key to our strategy. In addition to what we did in Q1 and Q2, as we look forward in Q3 and Q4, Commerce Street, like Mr. Snell talked about, we'll be putting together media plans around how to draw some earned attention at that moment. And then we're also working with Mr. Scott and Reginald on some thought leadership stories around what does it mean, what does affordable housing mean? And you're starting to see that show up in the media and in news coverage of really the discrepancy there and what the meaning behind being affordable, truly is for our citizens in our community.
What marketing skills are you all using to reach age groups between like 20 and 25 and 35-year-olds who are at the age where they would be buying houses or paying attention to the housing market?
Yeah, thank you for that question. All of our targeting in the paid media campaign, particularly with the OTT, over the top, the television streaming non-cable subscribers at that 18 plus segment, in addition to our digital ads, are all reaching that audience. We have not tailored it specific to a subset of that segment that might be very specifically shopping for homes. But we are reaching them in some way, knowing, that we're reaching 60% plus audience members in the city of Durham in general. Any other questions?
You all have more for us, or?
Yeah, we'd like to
Susan,
get some information from some thoughts from you all. So I'll flip it around, and that could incorporate some questions too, if you have them. We finished out this year, we've got some commitments through October, and we'll need to, and we'll continue to follow the bus Hulu-ish online screen thing plan for that. The budget for purchased ads is very small, so you really can't just start buying ads on the 6 o'clock news. You don't have enough budget for that. But we're trying to think of ways to get as much exposure as possible with the limits of the space you've got. And that includes that if we can get anybody to click on that QR code, they can get a lot of information on the website. So we'd love to drive more people to the website. And that's why that's on the buses. But as we're looking at what the coming 18 months starting in October would look like, we're very interested in who you think our most important audiences are. Rita, your question about age 21 to 26-year-olds being like looking for housing as a target age is a very interesting example of that. We had not thought, I had not, maybe Jenny had, I had not thought about young adults renting their first apartment as being kind of a target, but that would change some of what we might do if we think that's a particular interest to this committee. So I'd love to hear from some others of you. Who do you think are, all voters, all residents of Durham? Okay, now who else? And how do we tighten that up a little bit? Who's got some thoughts there?
Well, I have a question that may be related to the answers you're trying to generate. And this may be a question for Anthony or Reginald. So do students, thinking graduate students, fall into this population, low earning people who need housing? I was on the phone today with a young lady who is thinking about leaving graduate school because she just cannot take on more debt. And I know that's not a single story. So I just didn't know if students fall into this population or really thinking about full-time workers getting into these properties.
It's a good question. So right now, the way the paid media campaign is targeted, we are looking at really general populations because the goal of the campaign is awareness building. So we are just trying to build up exposure to get people to understand that A, this is happening, and B, they can go find out more information and really start to recognize the Forever Home Durham name. So that the more we have these more frequent updates of progress that's being made in kind of sticks and bricks, moments, real people getting into units, they're recognizing that was a long made plan, right? That we're reaching these milestones. So we haven't gotten into super segmenting or getting niche audiences because that reach then starts to really narrow and you pay more for it. So that's where we stand. Now. The hope is, again, by way of having really diverse set of a media mix, mm-hmm. that we hope we reach them.
Yeah. And I'll circle back with the Housing Authority staff, because my question was really about, are those students eligible for the property?
Good question.
Yeah. Would they?
So, Chair Rivers, I'll take the first take it that. So to be quite frank, it's dependent upon the funding source that's in the project. So if it's a 4% or 9% in low-income housing tax credit project, those do not permit students as full-time. You do have to meet the income requirement. Mm-hmm. But there are provisions. So I just was in a meeting today where we were talking about preferences for a project, and after I won't name the project, but they declined to have the preferences for students because they found out it's very, very complicated, and there are very some rules and regulations that actually specifically prohibit that. Okay. So I would give offer that. I don't know if Mr. Snell has anything else to offer.
Now that makes perfect sense. The last thing I'll say is, and I don't know how time consuming this is. Don't think it will be, but it's free. And that is, sort of the faith communities in our city. So you have Durham Can that's going to have their network. If you've got a QR code that you can send out and encourage them to send to their congregations, I know we send a weekly electronic newsletter that I'd be happy to put the QR code in there. And again, that's a few thousand people that would get it. DCIA, Durham Congregations in Action. It may take a phone call to get to the right person to make sure it doesn't get lost in there. But again, that's a network, very diverse in the city, free, that could get you some eyeballs.
That's great. That's great, Prince. And we'd love to talk about materials to distribute to this committee to then help push that out to different networks, as in addition to other means for getting it out. But that's a great suggestion.
We noticed.
I
for
have
example-
sorry, Susan, I have a question that might be for Reginald and Anthony. Do we have any high level demographics in terms of age of the people that are currently in like the DHA housing? I mean, I don't know if we know primarily like what the age groups are right now.
So, yeah, this is Anthony. Yes, we do have that data, and I think some of you may have, and certainly Courtney, you may not. Mr. Scott had on several presentations that he's made, he's presented that data, which with respect to our population, that the demographic information.
That might be useful to review just to see. I trust that that's been presented, but I don't recall that information right now.
Part of the reality is that the market for getting this visibility out there is not just potential folks who might want to get on a list at the Housing Authority, because those are very long lists. And there are, I don't know how many, Anthony, you know, but 1,000 people. I don't know how many people are on the list, but it's a long list. So filling that list has never been a problem. Making sure that if more funding is needed for affordable housing downstream, that the voters will vote yes for it is an equally important target, I think, for us. So we want members of all the three political action committees to be hearing this message also, and to say, you know what, that was a good investment and we should continue to support affordable housing. And we want to elect officials who will be in favor of affordable housing. I mean, those kinds of general knowledge is very important, as well as people who might actually need to get on a waiting list for a house. Would you agree with that, Reginald?
Yes, I would.
Any potential, I guess the season is probably just about over, right? Durham baseball. I don't know if there's any. It's been a crazy summer, so I don't even know.
It's still here. It's not over yet. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I think we need all of you to help keep your eyes open for opportunities. For example, the People's Alliance is doing a program on affordable housing coming up next week or so. That sort of thing we can miss it if y'all don't let us know that something's coming up. CAN is another one that if you see that there's a group working to put together a special program, please let us know and we'll try to get some information. We'll for sure get the QR codes out there, give them some new facts, give them updates on how the bond's been used. I think there's a lot of ways to double up with something that's already going on. And among this committee, you've got eyes in a lot of parts of Durham, and that would be really helpful to the staff and us that are trying to help on the outside.
I think Dr. Diggs has a comment, question.
Hi, I'm glad you just said that because it made me think. The Coalition for Affordable Housing is hosting a public forum about affordable housing August 19th. And it would be good to have that information that we can present to the public there.
Through you? Through whom, Nicole?
The Coalition for Affordable Housing. I will put my information in the chat so you have it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other ideas about avenues that we can share with Moss and Ross? Avenues for information and awareness? Well, we want to keep these questions in our minds so that we can inform our excellent communications team about opportunities to share this really helpful information. Rita?
I did notice there's a question in the from someone who's watching. We are not the right ones to answer, but
Yes, I was going to come back to that. I think that it's pertinent, but
we're not to answer that as a matter.
Yeah. Rita, did you have a question? See your hand up.
No, sir. I apologize. Thank you.
Okay.
We're open to other ideas that you have later, and particularly thank you for, as Dr. Diggs just offered, that kind of help is really, really valuable. We will get something to you. I got your information.
She's got
I
one.
had the wrong date. It's the 26th.
Okay. All right.
You gave an earlier one, so that's better than the
Right.
alternative. We would miss it.
I think that was the original time I looked at my calendar and I had the 19th. So obviously I lied to myself. So it is the 26th.
So Susan and Jenny, if someone Monday thinks of something,
Yes.
what should we do with that information?
Yes, I did also, I think unintentionally, although perfectly fine, send it directly to you, Nicole. I'll also drop my, to everyone else in here in the chat, email. So definitely, and truly at any point, there's no deadline, and it can be free flowing. We love thoughts. We love the engagement of the committee. We know the reach, and the touch points you have within the community. Our ability to provide information is of no issue. Getting that information out as widely as possible, like you said, Prince, especially where free, and where we can earn our way into it. And we know that's not a hard thing to do because this is such important work in the community. I mean, everyone now, it's such a topical topic, and people thankfully are more tuned into the need. And so we know that if we can just get the information distributed to the right places, that people will take notice. So we appreciate the committee's thoughts and follow-up work to push that out. And we're here to be a resource as well.
I'm going to add one final thing. We've, from the very start of this engagement, before you all were even recruited for this committee, we've always viewed this committee as sort of an ambassador group to make sure the word got broadly out. And so when there's, I hope many of you will not only send information to the August 26th event, but that we'll all show up there, and that we'll show up at candidate forums and ask the questions that need to be asked, and make sure that this conversation continues broadly in the community.
And we can provide digital information or printed materials. So to also let us know if there's a particular format that would work best as you're able to help us with that effort.
Well, we thank you both for the updates and the presentation and the opportunity to share information with you a little bit later.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We also appreciate all the comments from the group as well. We'll go on to the next item for the agenda, and I'm going to raise the question that was put in the chat, because Reginald, you might be able to answer it as a part of your presentation. And that question is there an update on the disposition plan for McDougald Terrace?
I'll ask Mrs. Snell to respond. That's actually a housing authority.
Okay. So I would like to update you on our planned redevelopment for McDougald Terrace. So with respect to McDougald Terrace, we are still awaiting HUD to give us the green light to proceed with the plan that we developed over the last year, and meeting with the community with respect to the future redevelopment of that site. We had a requirement from HUD where we needed to have that plan submitted in February. We met that requirement, and we submitted a redevelopment options to HUD for HUD to review. And our recent conversations with HUD, especially working with the Greensboro office, they are going to start that process with HUD to seek that approval so we can move forward with our development plans. I know the question is regarding disposition. We are not, this is not a traditional disposition where we are selling McDougal Terrace. The disposition, there is technically under the HUD program guidelines, there will be a disposition, but we will be the entity that will purchase it so we could be part of the development. So there's not, we're for the market thinking that we're going to sell McDougal Terrace to somebody else and it's going to come in and develop it. It will be transferred to an affiliated entity as part of the disposition for redevelopment.
Thank you for that. I think we're ready for you, Mr. Johnson.
All right, thank you. I hope everybody's doing well. I would point out that Councilmember Hosley Hyman had to step out. She had a 6:30 meeting, another meeting, and so she asked me to make everyone aware and with that sharing. The presentation that I have, and Benita, I'm going to ask you to go back to the beginning of the presentation. This is a presentation that's adapted from the City Council presentation that I made earlier, well, late this spring, to give an update on Forever Home Durham, the status of where we are and what's going on with the program. And so I have several slides, but you'll have a copy. You have a copy of it. It's kind of dense. When I say dense, a lot of material. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I am going to just share what I shared with the council, so you have an update on what we're doing and what's going on. Benita, are you able to go back to the beginning? If not, take it she's having some technical difficulties, but you have the presentation with you. I'll go over the slide that's in front of you. So there are some programs or some projects that are in Forever Home Durham and some that are not. You know what? I just thought about, I don't know if I'm able to. So, Benita, do you want me to try to share my screen?
Yes, see if you can on your screen, because I am having technical difficulties, Reginald. I apologize.
All right. All right. All right, there we go. All right. See if I can slide. Okay. So one of the things we're just going to talk about, and I see we have watching the time 6:51. Talk about a little bit about housing affordability in Durham. I'll give an update on Forever Home Durham, the current year, the past year's highlights. Then I'll talk about the plan goals for next year, starting the year we're in here in July 1, going into June 30th of 2024, the priorities and the challenges. And then, of course, we can ask any questions. So just like Mr. Snell, he stole my thunder. I like the slide, the picture that he showed. So because it really shows the purpose of why we're here and doing this work. And I'm not going, he spoke eloquently about it, but you know, to talk about the renovations of the 170 something units at the tower there, and then the building of 80 new units at the Joyce. That's to symbolize represents the work that we do with Forever Home Durham. Funding in the city was great to be able to be one of the participants. The reality is, without the funding that the city put in, the Housing Authority has shared, they would not have to have been able to do, definitely not be able to do the joists, the 80 new units, and it would have taken them much longer to do the renovations of the tower. And so we're glad that as a community that we were able to join together and support the Housing Authority and create these new units for the residents that live here, and particularly the seniors. In terms of affordable housing and housing affordability in Durham, this just represents that the housing, the median home price in Durham was just under $400,000, $382,000, and you can see how it's been going up and up for quite some time. And everybody knows that, but we'd like to just point that out, unfortunately. This chart is just a snapshot. When we took this from apartments.com in May of 2023, this is when the month that I actually did the presentation to the council. There were 4,363 apartments for rent. And the median rent was $1,400 a month in the Durham area. That's one slide on your left. On your right, it shows the number of apartments that is less than $1,100 a month for a one bedroom. There were just 145 of those when this was taken in May of 2023. So that just shows the challenge that we have even on the rental side here in Durham. This slide, and you've seen this slide before, this just symbolizes why we're even having this discussion about affordable housing with the market rate that most people see in the building all over the city of Durham. You see that, the rental income comes in for the market rate developer, and they can pay their operating expenses and debt payments and then make a profit. And if the debt needs to increase, they can raise the rents. Well, in the case of affordable housing, the rental income, because people are paying based on their income, there's not enough money to pay the operating expenses, the debt payment, and so there's a need of a subsidy, and that's what the city of Durham and other players do. We play a subsidy because the cost to build a market rate and affordable are basically the same lumber, same steel, same basic principles there, and so they basically cost the same, but the rental income is dramatically different. And so that's the reason we even have this discussion. And so the highlights from the last fiscal year, from June 1 of 2022 to July 1 of 2022 to June 30th, 2023, year that's ended. We're awarded $16 million to create or preserve 681 units. You see the apartments listed there: Cedar Trace Apartments, 180 units; Sandy Ridge Station, 5,132 units; Fairhaven Walk, 192 units. Renovation, well, this is the acquisition of JFK Towers. Not renovation, it was the acquisition because there was a syndicate that bought it and they're starting their work. 177 units. And then committed $25.8 million to create or preserve 355 units. Southside phases 3 and 4, Elizabeth Street Apartments, part of the Housing Authority, then Hardy Street Apartments and Ashton Place, which is right next to Willard Street Apartments. Also in FY23, the $40 million of Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant was awarded to redevelop and revitalize 519 Main Street, Liberty Street, and surrounding downtown neighborhoods, what Mr. Snell just spoke about. And then we also were fortunate enough to get $10 million in ARPA funding from affordable housing that the city has contributed out of the ARPA funds. And then the county is actually going to give us another 10 for a total of $20 million that we're going to use on some selected projects to complete that were not awarded funding. This is just the definition of the Forever Home Durham, and you've seen this before and what the goals are. I won't repeat those here. But you again have the presentation with you. Again, this is the goals that we have in terms of the proposed financial spending, and what I'll do with the financial report, we won't talk about it at this meeting, but I will email it to everyone and we'll go through it at the next meeting. And these are just the fundings that's included in Forever Home. In the years that we included, we did extend the year because of COVID, so it goes to FY 2026 now. And there are some funding sources that are not in Forever Home Durham. So all of the money that we have as resources is not in Forever Home Durham. There's some that are not, but we still use those funds in support of affordable housing in different ways. And that's what these funds are. And this is important. This is the progress to date. I'll spend a little bit of time here. If you remember that the rental units created, we had a goal of 1,600. There are 1,257 in the pipeline. That means that these are arrangements, deals that are coming together. They haven't been put into a contract yet with the general developer and the construction begin. There are 451 units under contract, and we've completed 162 for a total of 1,870 units based upon where we are, including those in the pipeline, those under contract, those completed. We expect to right now to exceed the goal on rental units created by about 270 units based upon where we are now and what's in the pipeline and what we have under contract. Rental units preserved, we have a goal of 800 units. We have 27 in the pipeline right now. We've under 56 under contract. We've completed 355 for a total of 438, and the remaining balance is 362 to meet that goal. In terms of home ownership you created, we have a goal of 400. We've had 90 in the pipeline, 6 under contract with a total of 96 with the still balance of 304 to go. This is our most challenging area in terms of home ownership. We have just relaunched the down payment assistance program that will help, and we are seeking additional funding to create additional home ownership opportunities in the upcoming year. But this has proved to be one of our more challenging areas. The next 2 areas deal with homelessness. We have homeless persons in permanent housing. The goal is 1,700. We've completed 1,481 persons have been in permanent housing, and we have a balance of 219 persons to go to meet that goal. And then for low-income housing, low-income household stabilized, a goal of 3,000 households. We've completed 1,810 households, and this includes eviction diversion, rental assistance also. And so we have basically 1,100, just under 1,200 balance remaining on that goal. So these are the numerical metrics that we have that we give a update on the progress that we're making. So in terms of the financial overview, the budget for 2024 is approximately $44 million. The increase over FY23 is driven by the increased budgets for multifamily production, preservation, neighborhood stabilization, and homelessness services. And it also handles the increase of costs that we've talked about before. This is a list of projects, rental housing development and preservation projects. You can see that we listed all the projects, their status, whether they're in the pipeline, under contract, or completed. And then you see the number of units. So you just have that for your reference as we move forward. I'm not going to go through each line. Then this is a slide we were talking about earlier of money. Remember I shared there was money that was not in funding, not in Forever Home Durham. what's here is a list of the results of that work. That money is used to fund other projects that's outside of Forever Home Durham, and these are those projects, particularly in the rental housing, but there's also some home ownership here as well. This is the funding that's going to come from ARPA. The federal funds have been awarded to the city and the county, and the county has given us some of their funds. There's 3 projects, Dearborn Family, McKissick Square, and Mosaic Development of South Bridge, that's by Durham Tech. And then you've previously heard from the United Minority Contractors of North Carolina, and this is the data that we have from the minority and women-owned businesses that have been participating in all the projects, including the ones with the Housing Authority. And so this is representative of the contract amounts as of April 2023. And so these are just the goals that we have for homelessness services as we move forward into next year and what we're trying to accomplish. I won't go through all of those, but you see those for your reference. And the same for neighborhood stabilization. I will point out that we'll be in the 4th year of the city-funded eviction diversion program, resulting in 391 tenants preserving tenancy. And the Low Home Time Homeowner Grant Program will be was completed in June. They're serving 44 eligible residents. And we launched the down payment assistance program just the end of last month. COVID response is still in the picture, though very much diminished from what we did before. But the important thing is that we're going to continue the COVID funding for non-congregate shelter support, including hotel and White Flag, cold weather through June 30th, 2023. And then we'll provide additional funds to support and expand rapid rehousing activity capacity through the 2023. Just the priorities for FY24 this upcoming year. In rental housing, we're going to work with the Durham Housing Authority to complete the construction of projects at 519 East Main and begin the construction and replacement housing projects in the C&I footprint, planning to develop BD&P sites and begin contracting for the awarded ARPA funds that I just mentioned. And homelessness, we're going to maintain support for the homeless system and providers, increase the number of landlords willing to accept vouchers and rent to higher barrier households, expand technical assistance to providers, and transition from pandemic operations to the new normal. Particularly area homelessness is going to prove to be a challenge, but that's what that's a priority for us. Then in terms of neighborhood stabilization, we're going to manage successfully the current program of down payment assistance, eviction diversion with legal aid in North Carolina, minor repair program, a substantial rehabilitation program, and we're getting ready to issue a request for proposals for surplus property that give nonprofits the opportunity to build houses on city-owned property. And then we're going to maintain and expand the support for small-scale production and issue a couple of RFPs in the upcoming year. So the challenges that we have, including and everyone knows, this rising rental rates and the lack of landlords that will accept vouchers is critical. Then increasing costs of for sale housing and the workload capacity of CDD teams. We have developers and providers, so we all are victims of the hiring challenge. But I can say that in community development, we just brought 3 people on by the end of in the month of July, and we're gonna have another 5 folks that will join our team by the end of September, and that'll leave us with 2 more positions to be filled. So we're making great progress, I think. Just in summary, we are making progress through, though not uniform through all the Forever Home Durham categories. Some categories are projected to exceed our goals, and some categories we're still striving for progress. As a reminder, though we have expended resources, those resources are not enough to address the need, which is being exacerbated by the current economy and housing market. We have been successful to the point of providing sufficient additional funding to keep our multifamily projects proceeding despite increased construction costs and interest rate. If you remember, one of the things as we were going into COVID, I had advised the city council that it was best if we could to keep our projects going so that we won't lose any tax credits or lose any money that we've already invested. We were able to get through that and make some progress, and we have not lost the project thus far. And so that's a good thing, but it did cost us. It cost us, but you know, we knew that we needed those units, and so we were able to make that progress. And so I'll stop there. Stand for any questions that conclude my presentation. Thank you for listening. I know it's a lot of talking, a lot of information, but you have it in front of you.
Thank you, Reginald. Nicole, you've had your hand up patiently.
He was on a roll. I didn't want to stop him. I just have a couple points of clarification. So on the slide where you put pipeline and under contract, pipeline is that you're looking for developers, and under contract means that you found developers that are going to work on those rental units.
Well, you're close. So in the pipeline means that we're having discussions or negotiations.
Okay.
Okay. That we've identified that I'm doing, want to do business with, you know, Nicole Diggs and Company. All right, but we don't have a contract. But we don't have a contract yet.
Okay.
Consummated. And sometimes we may spend a year talking to come to a point where we can have a contract. That's the reason that what's in the pipeline is important. Once we have a contract, a signed document between us, that means you're going to do something and we're going to give you something. And we've locked it down. At that point, you probably have your general contractor and you're getting ready to start building. That's a different standpoint than us talking. Because when we're just talking, it could fall apart.
Okay.
Okay. And so does that help? Does that help answer?
Yes.
Okay.
The other one I had was the low income households stabilized. Are those the individuals who are in programs that are existing now?
Yes, that's correct. So the main programs that we're talking about, excuse me, my lights just went out in my office, are eviction diversion, where you have Legal Aid of North Carolina that is helping people in court to maintain their tenancies or get out without implications where they can get into other housing. Then you also have rental assistance also, that's part of that. Whether we're using HOPWA or other home housing opportunities with AIDS or other funding to help people on a regular basis to maintain their apartments.
Okay, thank you. The other, I got two more. The other one is when you had the list of the affordable homes, I just wanted to know at what level were they affordable? Are they 50% AMI, 60% AMI? Like where are we falling? And I'm pretty sure it's different for each one of the long lists.
Yes, so most of your multifamily apartments are going to be 60 and below.
60 and below. Okay.
Your housing is going to be 80 and below, 80% and below.
Okay. And the last one is when you talked about the challenges about rents going up and landlords not accepting vouchers. Are we tracking in any kind of way which landlords aren't accepting vouchers to kind of understand or get a better understanding of why they're not, to think of other incentives we can provide so that encourages them to start accepting vouchers?
So I would say yes, we're actually going to do more of that. We have a contract with Vintage Housing for New Hope, where they're going to be engaging with our landlords more. But it's going to take, what happens is that it's usually going to be your homegrown or local landlords that'll be the ones that in the end that we'll help us the most, not necessarily those that are part of multinational corporations.
Mhm.
So we have to work on those individual relationships. To be quite candid with you, what happens is that in this market, our landlords make the decision, why go through something where I have to, sign something, have somebody expect where I can just charge rent and somebody will come by and pay whatever I want to pay.
Mhm.
Because we have the market, with Amazon here and Google and Meta and all that going on, and why bother? So that's another piece. And then the other piece we have to work with is related to those that are homeless or formerly homeless, because there's usually support services that are needed. And how can we guarantee to the landlord that the person will access those support services to help support them living in their residence?
Okay. Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Excellent, excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Johnson? Rita, I did see your question. Check the chat. So Reginald, there was a question about whether there is a glossary of acronyms.
We can work to make one.
Okay, all right.
What I'll do is use the slide presentation and go back and look at mine. I try not to do that, but I'm sure that I did because I was going pretty fast. But we can make one.
It seems like there's one provided on the City of Durham website, because I think I asked that a couple years ago and you provided some. I don't know if it needs updating, but you did provide that information.
Thank you, Reginald.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions for Mr. Johnson, we will move on to public comment. We will hear from anyone who may be in the public. There are 2 minutes. You can either type your question or you will have 2 minutes each. So I think you would need to make yourself known, and then I can see questions if you'd like to speak. I think I need Anita's help for that. Any questions from the public? We answered the one that was already put in there earlier. So I think we have covered all the items on our agenda tonight. We had a very thorough update from Moss and Ross. Looks like we're making good progress on some of the major housing initiatives that are part of this committee's oversight. And each of us has been challenged to make Moss and Ross aware of any opportunities to present their information and make more people aware of what's going on. Let's see what this question is. And Benita, if you could, there was one question in the chat. Just make sure that the full committee received Reginald's presentation. I have it, but looks like at least one person did not get it. So that may mean most of the people. Thank you.
I'll make sure everyone has it. Thank you.
Thank you. And so if there are no further comments, again, Courtney, I don't know if you want to say anything.
I was just going to thank you, Prince, for taking the lead on this. It's very hard to navigate these meetings from my phone. So I promise next time I will do this from my laptop, but thank you for taking the lead on this.
Glad to do it. Glad to do it. Look forward to working with you and all of you. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Snell, I think we're good to go. Okay. And Benita, it looks like the presentation was found. So
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One other thing, I do want to introduce Bianca Carrillo, who is actually with Benita, and she's going to be assisting. This is my new administrative coordinator, my new right hand. And so I want to introduce her to the team, so everybody will get a chance to meet Bianca.
Hello, Bianca. Excellent. We look forward to welcoming you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone have a good evening.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Good night.
Bye.